If you're producing content on multiple platforms, but you have no way to organize it, this video is perfect for you. The consistency of building across multiple platforms is what's challenging, and consistency is what leads to growth. Today, I'm going to show you a really simple but effective content planner built directly in Notion that's going to take your content to the complete next game and allow you to stay consistent with it. I've got a template down below. It's the first link in the description, so you can go and grab it yourself and actually start using it too. As you saw, we're going to be creating a content planner, and we're going to use, this is the one from last week. If you want to watch that video, go watch that video building a client portal. But we are going to be creating a content planner as a whole and showcasing to you how to actually build your content planner so that you can keep everything organized, you can keep everything in the one space, and that can include your ideas as well as the content that you're publishing. This can be across multiple different platforms, and this has been a game changer for me to actually use this. I know a lot of massive YouTubers actually use Notion for keeping track of all of it, but you might have always questioned, okay, how do I actually do it? And what's the best way to go about it? So we're literally going to build this from scratch, and I'm going to take you through it step by step of what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be doing it, just so that we can move forward with it. We'll get some of the easy things out of the way with the design features. As everyone knows, I absolutely love to make it look good, but we'll get two databases of what we're going for. The first database is generally just going to be a content database, so this is going to be our content tracker, and the second one is going to be our ideas one, which we don't need to worry about just yet, but we'll get that after we've finished this. So with the content, we're going to just name this title, and we're going to start adding some of the properties in for what we're actually looking to do. Content type, again, we've got the suggested ones. These can be quite good. We'll just change that to schedule so that we have it. So next up, what we're going to do is we're going to have a select, which is going to be the stage. These have all changed now, so it's going to be interesting to actually implement all of these. It's actually become quite different from what we were doing before. We're also going to be putting the file in for what we're looking for, and this is going to be the content itself. There's a reason for this, and we're actually going to use this in some of the automations with what we're going for. Next up, we're going to have another select, which is going to be the performance. So this is going to keep track of how we're getting on and how things have been moving. We're going to put in the created time just for the sake of having a created time. It's sometimes quite good, especially with the ideas of what you're moving forward with. And this is where we're going to start it. We're going to add a few other things like the relation database. We're going to add a repurposed formula, and we're also going to add something for when we're adding platforms into what we're doing. So let's just first rename this to content planner, as we're going to come up with a few of the areas anyway to actually make this a little bit better. So first and foremost, we're going to look at the stages of what we're going to be doing. Now, if you are wanting to keep the ideas inside of your content tracker, then you can. For this one, I'm going to separate them because it might be easier to keep track of them if you have a lot of ideas and that's something that you do on a regular basis. If not, then that's totally fine. You would put idea in one of the stages and you'd make that as one of your templates that you're going to be doing. But what we're going to have in here is we're going to have planning, we're going to have writing finished, we're going to have editing, we're going to have ready to post, and we're going to have published. And these are just the easy way for us to get tracking. And then within the performance side of things, we're going to have poor, we're going to have good engagement, we're going to have good performance maybe, and then we're going to have excellent, just as a good metric, as a top sort of standard with what we're wanting to do. We'll change a few of these colors just for the sake of it. All right, now that we've got a few of these in place, we want to start adding a few more variables for what we're doing. So first, we'll get the template coming in for everything that we're going to be doing and how we're actually designing that. So we'll get new content, and this is just going to be something that we'll design quite quickly. Again, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's just something to allow it to work in our favor with what we're wanting to do and make things seamless. If we put up the top, we'll have something like the schedule, we'll have the stage, we could potentially have the content, and then maybe the performance if we're wanting to have that. We can have the created time down there. Inside of this space within your content, you're probably going to want two things. Again, we're really not going to make this complicated. We are going to make this as simple as possible. So maybe you could separate this into two columns, and then in the first column, we're going to have the script if it's a video. We'll put a divider here so that it's there. And then in the second column, we could potentially have the actual post captions. And this is just going to allow us to keep things separate, keep things in their own place with what they're wanting to do. Now, if we are building something like a YouTube tracker with this, we would probably have to take this further, where you're having your B-roll, you're having some of the sounds and effects that you're using. But honestly, when you're wanting to just get consistent with the content, Just keep it as simple as possible. In my YouTube one that I build, and I can build a YouTube one if you guys want to see a video on that, I have things like my hook, title, thumbnails, stuff like your main points, and then your ending, and then just the regular CTAs that I have throughout. I don't have anything crazy, but if you want to have something a little bit deeper, then I can actually take you through that. The stage for anything that we start is going to be planning, and what I'm going to do is just the schedule for today, just purely because it's going to be easier when we're actually tracking all of that with what's going on. And we're going to make that new content just our regular one. It means that any new page that we add in is going to be for today, and that we're in the planning stage. Makes it really, really simple as we go along with it and as we push it forward. Now, there's a few things that usually happen when you start to create content that you begin to realize. And the first one is maybe knowing when you should be repurposing content. A lot of big creators talk about repurposing, especially once they get good. And if you're at the start of your journey, there probably won't be many pieces of content that will do well in your eyes, as in getting a lot of likes, a lot of follows, all of that sort of stuff. And that's fine. But it's a really good way to actually know when you should be repurposing. Usually what you find is people will tell you after about 60 days or so is when you can be doing that. So I am going to actually create a formula that will tell me after 60 days, you can repurpose this content if you would like. You could also set filters on certain databases, and I'll show you how to do that, of if the performance is good, good engagement, good performance, then it would tell you that you can repurpose that content. And if not, then it's not going to show it, because you wouldn't want to repurpose the things that are doing poor. That could be a little bit more nuanced. Sometimes your posts that don't do as well actually get the leads through the door, and it depends what you're wanting to go for, but I'll show you how to do it anyway. So if we select this formula, I'm generally just going to copy it over from my other one, because I'm not going to spend the time doing all of the formula and just showing you here. Essentially what we're doing is if the date between now and the scheduled date, so if the date between now and the scheduled date that we've got here is more than 60 days, it's going to tell you to repurpose, and if not, it's going to tell you to keep creating. So you'll see here, because the scheduled date is less than 60 days, it's telling me to keep creating, and if I put it down to March, it's going to tell me I can repurpose it. It's just a really simple way of having a formula there that can allow me to do that. The second thing that usually comes up is, okay, I've started creating content, but I've posted something on LinkedIn and now I want to post it on to TikTok or Instagram or anything that you want to post it to. Now, the issue with that is if you've got your date that we have here, so we've got our scheduled date, and if we are posting this to, let's say, Instagram, then we maybe don't really have a way of differentiating that, because you're just planning this content with what you're wanting to do. So this is where we come up with another select, where it's going to be the platform. And the platform is just, as we say on the tin. We're going to do 3 platforms for this example with what we're actually working towards, just for the sake of it. But this is a great way, first, again, to actually group where you're having your content going, rather than, just saying, this is what the content is, this is where I'm posting it. After this, we come on to what we were talking about just before, is that if you're repurposing this and you have this content, so let's just say this is heading 1 for your content, and you're wanting to repurpose this, you can't really change the schedule date, because you scheduled this original post on the 3rd of July. You want it to be doing something else with it. So what we can do is we can come up with an added platform button, essentially going to replicate what we have in here and then transfer it to another data point that we can then select. Now, the one I'm going to do is just for an added platform of TikTok, but if you're wanting to do it for any platform, you could do this button and you could replicate this button. I'll show you the 2 ways that you can do it. One dives a little bit deeper. The other is more just of a nuanced way of doing it, but I'll show you how to do it anyway. So we're going to add the button called added platform. And if we select where the button is, this is going to allow us to then create an automation for each of those to basically add a new page inside of this page, replicating what we have from there. So what we do is we add a page to this page that we've actually got. We're going to select it as the new content, and we're going to change the added platform. Let's just say it's to TikTok, and that's the platform that we're wanting to do. We're going to edit this property in here of the platform to be TikTok so that it's there. And we're going to actually change the title in this space. So using this formula, what we're going to do is we're going to do this page, and then we're going to do dot, and that's going to allow us to select sort of what we are wanting to have from the page that triggered it originally. And that's going to be the title. Now in here, you could add extras if you were wanting to. You could have this page dot title, and then we could add a plus, and then in quotations you could put TikTok, and that means that after the title that we've made, it then has TikTok after it. So I'll show you what that looks like to actually have that. Again, schedule, we're going to have the date triggered just for the sake of us editing it. It's going to be easier to find. And then obviously the stage, again, we're going to have something maybe like ready to post, because this is already going to be something that you've already created, you've already used. If you're repurposing it, yeah, you might change some of the script, but this is a good way to do it. And finally, what we'll do is we'll just open this page just for the sake of it, and then we'll save that. So I'll show you exactly what we mean when we do this. If we click this button, what we're going to have is we're going to have the heading 1 TikTok in here, and we're going to have the platform already added. So everything that we've created in this space is now being repurposed to a different platform, meaning that if we maybe posted this on something like May the 15th, and I'm going to remove this one and I add the platform, you'll now see July the 3rd is going to have the same heading with what's actually going on. I actually see as well that this hasn't done great with actually spacing it out a little bit, so we'll space it out with 1 for what we're doing. There's a few questions that then come up after this that we're wanting to do. We've got the script inside of the first one that we're looking to do, which we might want, and we've also got no way of linking these back to one another. Currently with Notion, there's no real way to actually take the page content inside of here and then transfer it to the next one without using some sort of automation platform. So we'll see here, if you were to have an added page and you were to take specific properties, you're not able to take the actual content inside of Notion itself. We can edit the pages, we can define some of the variables, but we're not actually going to be taking the content itself. So a few things that we're wanting to do with this. First, we're wanting to relate the added platform back to the main one that we were using. It means that we could take the script and the post and all that sort of stuff really easily. And as well, if we're uploading the content, that we want to do that. So we're going to do 2 things. We're going to add a relation database to this database to actually be able to relate back to the ones that we've created. And we're also going to create the content from the repurpose in case we want to directly take the content from that original post and put it into the repurposed content. Let me show you what that actually looks like. So we're going to set a related to original post, and this is going to be a relation database, and we're actually going to link it to itself. So we're going to have the 2-way relation, and it's going to be related back to the content tracker. So we've obviously got related to the original post, related back to the content tracker. We can actually turn off the 2-way relation. We don't even need that, but we've got the related to the original post. I'm going to put the an arrow or something like that to be able to get the original post back. And what this is going to allow us to do is basically tag this title into this original post. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a roll-up of the original content. So the original content is going to be a roll-up of the existing database, and it's going to be the content, and then it's going to show the original. And again, I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm just going to put a camera here with what we're wanting to do. Now, to tidy this up a little bit, again, kind of at the end of what we're needing for this, we're going to tidy up the layout a little bit more. So instead of having the performance here, we're actually going to have the platform that we're wanting to use. So we've now got the platform in there, we've got the stage, and we've got the content. In this space, we could definitely have the button of the added platform. So I'm going to just add this into here. So added platform in this area. And then up here, we could definitely tidy this up if we were wanting to. Performance, again, we could probably put performance in this space so that it's a little bit nicer to see. And we've got the content easier to actually look at and nicer to look at too. A few other additions of what we need to make sure happen is that the related to the original post becomes this page. So the one that we've clicked that button on, and that's allowing us to tag that original post. And I'll show you what this looks like as we go through it. All right, so let's say we are creating a piece of content. It's how to post on YouTube. That's going to be the content that we're going to be posting. And yes, we're going to do it on LinkedIn. That's where we're going to be posting that. But if we upload an image into here, I'm going to add me crane kick in the air. So that's going to be the piece of content that you're going to be seeing, which is awesome. I'll just show you that right here. That's awesome. I know it is. And we're going to have the performance as something like good engagement. Now, obviously, at this point, what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to reschedule this. So let's say we posted this back in April. It's going to tell us to repurpose this. We want to now repurpose this. So we add the TikTok platform. That's where we're wanting to post it. So we're now adding the TikTok platform. You'll see that it's already on TikTok with what we're going on. And we've got the original relation to what we were doing before. So now what you'll see in here is in this added platform, we're going to have a link back to the content that we created in case we wanted to see it and with what we were actually using. So this is just allowing us to see, okay, well, what are the things that we were using before? What's the things that we're actually wanting to keep? Now we've got a way of tracking the content itself. So we've now got two things of posting on each platform, and we've now also got an ability to repurpose to a specific platform. If you wanted to have this, by the way, where it was just repurposing as a whole, you wouldn't need to add the TikTok into here, and you wouldn't need to also put in that it was for the TikTok platform. If you just wanted to have this as an added platform and you were going somewhere, you could simply remove this for what you were wanting to do. You could then put the stage back to planning, and then you can go from there. But this is just me showcasing what you could do with it if you were wanting to. The other things that we would want to add at this point is stuff like grouped content. So what group of the content is actually happening, maybe this week's content, maybe a calendar view with what we're going to do. So we'll do exactly that, and we'll show this step by step. So first we'll add a calendar view, and we'll simply have this as the month of the schedule. So you'll see we've got the calendar for content. And in this space, we'll add some of the properties that we're wanting to see. So I'm guessing for this anyway, we will have the platform, we'll probably have the stage, and then from here, if we're really wanting something else, maybe an added platform, if we were wanting to, you could have the content in there, but you don't really need it. It's not something I would often put in this space because I don't think it really adds to it much. But this is a good way of seeing what we're actually looking to do. The next one we would be looking to add, again, is probably just a table view. However, with this one, we're going to do it by platform, and we're going to group it by that. So if we come to the group section, we're going to then group this by platform, and you'll be able to see that the LinkedIn and the TikTok are now grouped by those stages. So if we come back out, we're going to add the Instagram one to it. We're not going to have the platform. We're going to sort it by the schedule date. So we're going to have that in descending order. So we're seeing the most recent. And what we're also going to do with this one is we're going to filter this so that the stage is not published, so that we're not seeing the ones that we've already done or we've already finished. If there's also some things that you want to remove from here, so maybe for this one, you don't actually need to see the repurpose or the added platform or related to the original. Maybe you just want to see this sort of stuff in here with what you're wanting to do. What you can also have is you can show aggregation in this space, where you can see of a percent not empty, or you can count specific values, so you can count them all. You can count the values of the stage and all that sort of stuff. But again, it just depends on what you're wanting to do. We'll leave that as is for now. The final one we're going to add is this week's content. So in this space, again, we can have this week's content, and we're going to be able to see what's going on this week. So we're going to filter this by the schedule date, and it's going to be for this week. And we're also going to sort this based on the schedule of descending order. So we're again going to be able to see what's been posting in the most recent. So inside the property visibility, maybe you do want some of these other things. Because it's post this week, you're not going to be repurposing it. You're not going to be adding the platform. You're not going to need the relation to the individuals. You can just keep it as is. The final one that we're going to add for this is a repurposed one, just so that we can see all the content that needs to be repurposed and all the things that we should repurpose. So in the table, we're going to have the repurposed content, and inside of here, we're going to set up a few filters. So the first filter is going to be that the performance is not going to be poor. So we're going to have the good, engagement, the excellent, and all that sort of stuff. And the second filter that we're going to set up is going to be the repurpose filter. So we're going to have repurpose. This means that anything that has the content planner here to be keep creating doesn't show. So if you have this as a scheduled date that's a little bit later, so if we have it as June, you'll see this is going to be empty. But when we actually take this all the way back again to February, it will be in the repurpose section. What we're then also going to do with this is we're going to segment it by platform. So this just makes it really simple to see which ones need to be repurposed when. And then finally, what we're going to add in this property visibility is we're going to add the added platform, and then we're going to have related back to the original content and that added in. So we can have a little bit of quality life features here if we're wanting to wrap this text and stuff like that so it doesn't overspill into anything that you're doing. But this just gives you the ability to see what's going on where. So now we've got all of the content, we've got the content calendar, we've got it split by platform, we've got this week's content, and we've also got the repurposed content. The next thing that we're going to add is an ideas tracker. So if you're someone that likes to brain dump and you like to have your ideas in here, we are going to add an ideas tracker. So again, I'm just going to use AI. Can you build me an ideas tracker for my content that I will take the best ones and add to my content calendar? So again, we're just going to use AI to create a really simple database. We can update it and we can create it in any way that we want to. Your ideas are just how you want your ideas to be, but Notion's now got this AI feature that you can build some databases. It's a good way of at least kickstarting it if you don't know what you're looking for. I'm just doing it to save some time. So in the ideas section, essentially you're just going to have a space inside of your Notion where you can put all of your ideas for your content. If you want something in particular, if you want to have something there, then it's a really simple way to just track that content without having to add it to your content tracker just yet, in case it might not be a bad idea. You know, it might not be something that's actually that great and you might not need to use it at that moment in time. So I'm going to delete some of these properties just so they have them. Selected, considering, in calendar, that's all good. Travel, all that sort of stuff. This is great. We don't actually need to use much of this anyway. We're going to wrap this text so it looks a little bit nicer and lay it out. So the final thing that we're going to do with the content ideas tracker is we're going to relate this to the actual content tracker that we just made. So in the content tracker, we're going to have that relation. We're going to put a two-way relation and we're going to have the content ideas tracker. This essentially means that we can add this to the platform if we're wanting to, and it allows us to link it to the content tracker itself. Now, you might want to take some of these things directly into the content tracker. So instead of you linking it to the content tracker, you might want to instantly build it into the content tracker itself so that you can see everything that's going on. So we now have the content ideas tracker, which is great, but maybe we want to actually add that in. We're going to add a button into this space, and inside of that button, we're going to have the automation that when it's clicked, it's going to add a page directly to the content tracker that we've just made as the new content. We're going to then link the content ideas tracker to this page that we're using. Obviously, it's going to follow everything else with inside of that. But for this to be even better, what we probably want to do inside of this is create another roll-up. Now, in the roll-up, what it's going to do is it's going to use the content ideas tracker, and it's going to take the description and it's going to show the original. And that means that we can see the description of the idea that we had, and it allows us to just make it simpler to actually do. We're going to save this for now, and then in this space, it's going to instantly add the actual content tracker itself. So add idea to content. And this means that when we click this, so summer travel destination, when we click the idea added to the content, you're now going to see the new content coming in, showcasing the affordable yet amazing travel destination. And it just gets you a little bit kick-started with what's going on. This is a really good way of just adding some of your ideas directly into content. If you've had some ideas and you're wanting to see what's going on, it's a really nice way of doing it. Now, this looks terrible at the moment in terms of all of the icons and stuff like that. Usually I like to tidy it all up, but I'm showing you for the purposes of actually building it, and you can tidy it up later. This is again where you would want to come into here and start creating new tabs. So if we are customizing the layout and creating the tab function, you're then probably wanting to see some of the content ideas tracker. Or what you could do as well is inside of the content, you can have all of your ideas if you're wanting to build on those further. But for now, we will keep it like this. So at this point, we're now wanting to actually design all of the stuff that's going on. So I'm going to create two callout blocks, as these are always the best way to sort of separate things and have them actually there. This could be something like your menu. So if you have your menu and all of your titles, you would link your synced block to this. But what we're going to do for now is we're just going to keep our two databases in here. You would often create a backend that would keep all of these in place so that they aren't as easily accessible, but it's a really easy way for us to do this right now. What we're going to place in here is the charts. So we're going to have the charts, we're going to put a divider, and then we're going to put a linked view of the databases. So in these linked views of databases, we're actually going to have a new table view, which is going to be the chart version. What we want to see inside of these charts is two. The first thing that we've got, the stages that we're at, and then second, we're going to look at the performance. So first, we're going to have the stages, which is here. It's kind of already shown this, and we can omit 0 values if you want to, but you don't need to actually have that if you want all of that in place. The second one that we're wanting to do is we're going to want the performance. So we're going to have this as the linked view of the database. We're going to change this to the performance. And then again, all that we're doing is we're showing the performance of the posts themselves. So just like before, we're kind of seeing this in a little bit of a different light if you are wanting to. Now, to add these in, callout blocks can be a little bit of a pain, but all you need to do is go inside of the chart, create those two columns, And then we've got the stages, and we've also got the performance. So this originally allows us to see, okay, how are things looking? How are things moving? If you want to customize this a little bit, usually some of the style options I would do is I would create it smaller so that it's not taking up as much of the page. And then again, you can go into the filtering, you can change this how you would like, and it just gives you a nicer view of seeing what's going on inside of your databases as a whole. Down below is where we would create the second callout for the content itself. And because we've already used a lot of the work that we've done, we don't actually need to change the databases in any way. So if we just do a linked view of the content tracker itself, this is where we can start to just add all of this in. So we've obviously got the by platform, which is in here, which is great. And then we can add more of the views of what's going on. So we add the content tracker again, we do by this week's content. The next one we can add is the repurposed one, and I realize I've spelled repurposed wrong. And then what we can also do is we'll add the calendar view that we're looking at. So calendar for content, we'll have that added in as well. And this just means that we can have everything in place with what we're wanting to do and everything visible easily. I'm going to add another divider into this space so that we can separate them a little bit. And you might be wondering, what am I doing with the button? We're just going to have that as a new content button. So if we're wanting to create some content, then we can. All you need to do is you just add a page in the button, add it to the content tracker. We've got the new content, and then we can open this page so that it opens up with the page that we've just added. Meaning if I click this button, it's then going to create a new piece of content for me. I can select the platform that it's wanting to go on. I can select the date, all of that sort of stuff with what's happening. And it means in this week's content, that's already there. And by platform, that's there too. If I change this to TikTok, it would move up and all of that sort of stuff. Final one that you might want to add is the ideas tracker that we were doing. So now you've got all of your ideas. And again, what we can do in here is we're just going to add a 2-column feature so that we could do both buttons. So we've got the new content button, and then I'm just going to duplicate this, and we're going to have a new idea button as well, and keeping this a little bit simple as we're going forward. So new idea, add that for the sake of it. Content ideas tracker, new item, and then we're going to open the page. So now we've got something that looks a lot better than what we were doing before. We've got all the content by platform, the performance, we've got the repurposed items as well, and what we can repurpose. So if we want to add it to TikTok or we want to do something else, we can, and we've got all of our ideas. You can also add the buttons up the top here if you're wanting to, but it really is up to you with what you're wanting to do. I went into quite a breakdown of how to create your content platform, but this is keeping everything organized in the way that's going to allow you to remain consistent with it. I've been doing content for a good couple of years now, and this is the one that I install with a lot of clients that I'm working with, purely because it allows them to keep things organized, it allows them to repurpose, and it allows them to see things that are going on, especially if they already have their stuff inside of Notion, and this is where they want to keep track of it. If you're wanting to use AI a little bit further with it, you could start to implement make automations and your AI agents if you're using something like that. Airtable is also a great choice when it comes to this, as you can actually use Airtable to post directly from there if that's something you're interested in. But if you want to keep track of it and you want all the team to be organized inside of Notion and knowing what's happening, this is the best way to do it. And if you're wanting to grow your business and scale it through systems, I've got a 7-day series that will help you do exactly that. The link is in the description, and the video on the screen right now is going to help you do just that too.